Despite being a pretty damn reliable Pokemon in general, Weezing sits neglected in the zero usage category. And so today, I'm gonna make this fella do some stuff that it's never done before. As a pure poison type, Weezing generally just kinda has one job. It can use its only decent stat being 120 defense to tank attacks, then provide good support by burning things with Will-O-Wisp, setting up toxic spikes, things along the lines of that. But one thing about Weezing is that it has a pretty solid move pool that it never gets to use. And so today, I'm gonna slap some choice specs on Buddy and go full special attacker mode. As nobody ever expects this thing to do damage, we can get surprisingly big hits with stab sludge waves. Brother's surfing on a sneeze. And aside from that, we've got some really fun coverage. It can run Fire Blast to catch steel types off guard, along with Thunder. I figure if we're gonna go choice specs Weezing, we might as well gamble a little bit with the highest damage moves possible. In the final slot, we've got Shadow Ball or Dark Pulse, which would pair better with the Terra Dark to avoid psychic moves on us. And so that's pretty much the plan. We're talking big damage floating poison disco balls today, so let's get this thing to surprise some people. Weezing has been my absolute guy for as long as I've been playing online Pokemon matches, which, is crazy to think about, but since the very beginning when Diamond and Pearl allowed you freaking to connect to Wi-Fi. I remember this thing being on some of my very earliest teams, and it works great as just a defensive switch-in, but I've never used the thing with the main purpose of doing damage. And this thing learns every damn move in the book, and today we're going gambling with some crazy ones. So if this sounds like a fun time to you, consider hitting that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes you a second. You probably won't regret it. We have a lot of fun with weird Pokemon shenanigans over here. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the match. Alright, so as my opponent has a pretty unique team, I wasn't really sure what they wanted to lead off with. I kind of expected Mamoswine, but it turns out we're met with a Gengar lead. And luckily, Swampert ain't afraid of no ghosts, and I can just freely set up some Stealth Rock, pressure this thing with a potential Earthquake. I'm feeling like it's probably Focus Sash and probably just here to get some damage early, but again, Swampert not afraid. Now, it turns out I am a little bit afraid because they actually end up going for the turn one trick, getting rid of my leftovers, but more importantly, giving me a choice specs, and that is going to cripple the hell out of our big-ass Mudkip because now I'm locked into Stealth Rock, and I don't get any benefit from, increase in special attack damage. So that is unfortunate. I do at least get my rocks up, and then I figure as they probably end up switching here, I truly am not exactly sure what they're going to do, but all I know is Bisharp's ass can switch in pretty easily to anything this thing wants to do, right? If they go for a Sludge Bomb, I switch in for free. I probably pressure it out. It turns out, however, they end up going for the nasty plot. So Buddy's over here just thinking nasty thoughts that are beyond human comprehension, and that leads me to believe that maybe they end up going for something like a Dazzling Gleam or a Focus Blast. Needless to say, I'm frightened. So I end up going for the Sucker Punch there to try to, bop him one. But as it's kind of an obvious play, they do expect that. They end up making the smart switch into Raichu. So I Sucker Punch the air. I also noticed this thing is floating with the air balloon. A little bit unfortunate, but honestly, I'm looking at this thing thinking I am not really that afraid of anything Raichu does. I'm Eviolite, I'm bulky as hell, but they go for an Encore because of course. I forget that Raichu can even learn Encore. That's annoying because now that locks me into Sucker Punch, and that's going to leave the door wide open for this thing to freely set up. Now, surely they're going to have Nasty Plot on this thing as well, and I got to try to make something else happen. Now, I decided to go Swampert. The reason for that is because while I know they probably Nasty Plot here, if they have the Grass Knot coverage, Swampert's ass is in fact grass. But if they don't, I should be able to take an attack. I can then pop its air balloon with a flip turn. I kind of was like, I bring this thing in, they do nasty plot, and the best thing I can do is flip turn just because of that air balloon. So again, if they have grass knot, I'm shit out of luck, but I'm choice specs anyway, so I don't really care. Now, they end up just going for the surf. They do not have the grass knot, which is great. That allows me to then go for that flip turn, not only keeping Swampert alive, but just popping that thing's balloon, getting some chip damage and putting in a range for pretty much anything that I have that might be faster to finish it off, which turns out my team is not very fast other than this Snowflake and then Ribombee. So I end up bringing in the B because, again, it should just be in range for a Moonblast to pick it off. And while as much as I would love to go for a Quiver Dance here, I can't really do that because if they go for a Thunderbolt, knock me down to close to Sash, I'll then just be in range for any priority like the Ice Shard from a Mamoswine to finish me off. So I just go for that Moonblast. It does take care of the Raichu, which is great. And on the revenge switch in, they end up bringing in the Charizard, but he's got Tims on. You can't tell. Charizard rocking those Tims because he does not take the Stealth Rock damage, got the heavy duty boots. That is a little bit unfortunate. Honestly, I feel pretty decent about that. The main thing I'm worried about is that if this was a Belly Drum set. If it's Belly Drum, it's probably Citrus Berry. And I'm hoping for no Belly Drum, right? They end up just going for the Dragon Dance. And as I switch into Swampert, this was kind of a sack switch, but also just like a big ass body to put in here and kind of see what this thing wants to do. As they go for that Dragon Dance, that is kind of fine. They can now go for an Earthquake at +1, Swampert is eating it up, dude. This thing is way too bulky for its own good. I can then go for a flip turn. And check it out, that actually has enough to kill for one reason and one reason only. That's because that thing knocked me into torrent range, increasing my water damage. A flip turn never knocks that thing out at full, unless we're in torrent. So, you know, sometimes it pays to be a guy on the verge of death, and we get a knockout via flip turn there, and that's pretty damn satisfying. So, bad thing is I knock him out on the flip turn, I now have to go into whatever I want. They can see the matchup and switch into whatever they want. They decide to bring in this big glistening bastard. They go into the Poliwrath, who... I'm like, okay, surely this thing is belly drum, right? I have two options here. Either I rapid spin and try to get a speed boost, or I just straight up go for a freeze dry. Now, the problem is I know a freeze dry doesn't KO this thing, so I'm like, I'm just going to click the freeze dry, get it out of citrus range for its belly drum. Turns out I end up getting a critical hit, almost ends up knocking it out. It does put it into citrus range. Luckily, though, as it's not in belly drum range, they just end up going for the drain punch. Nice play on their end because that, you know, guarantees that knocks me out, especially with a critical hit. And they get a ton of health back. At least I, you know, removed this thing's citrus berry, but losing the snowflake there, honestly, not great for me. As a recap of where we're sitting, they currently have 4 mons left. They have the Poliwrath, they have a Noctowl, they have Gengar, and a Mamoswine back in the back there. So I decide best thing I can do here is switch in the Weezing. It's finally Buddy's time to shine, and this game's gonna come right down to it. So first of all, I go for the Thunder, because I'm thinking surely they're not gonna expect a Thunder, right? They go for a Liquidation, doesn't do much damage because we're thick as hell. I go for a Thunder, and I miss, because of course I do. Of course, the first attack I click with this thing, we get a miss. It's fine. We get it out of the way, right? Bad thing is, since they know I'm going for Thunder, surely there's no way they leave this Poliwrath in here. Now, expecting the ground type to switch in being the Mamoswine, I have a little bit of a play I want to make here. And I'm going to go ahead, predict the switch into Mamoswine, which they do bring in. Young face paint, looking beautiful. But I make the double switch. I end up going into Bisharp. You may be thinking, hey, that's a shit matchup. And yeah, you know, that would be correct. However, I do have the Terra that I can bust out here. I haven't used up my Terra. I can go for a Terra Flying, float above the predicted Earthquake, get up a Swords Dance, and then basically Bisharp stonks, right? That's the plan. I go ahead, I bring out the balloons, birthday party ensues, and we're looking nice. Now, as long as they don't click an ice move, this is great for me, right? It's honestly a little bit of a gamble, especially against Mamoswine, but they end up going for a Terra of their own, which now I'm afraid. I don't know exactly what they want to do here. It turns out it's just going to be Terra Ground, so that's going to remove this thing's weakness to in Iron Head, but it's still kind of fine. I like to see them use up their Terra. I will absolutely take it. I do still get up my Swords Dance. If they go for the Terra Ground, that just means they're going to click Earthquake regardless, and they do. So I'm floating above it. I get up a free +2. Now I find myself in a situation where Ice Shard is super effective, but I'm bulky. I have the Eviolite. I should be able to live it. I can go for an Iron Head, and even though this doesn't have the super effective hit, I'm thinking maybe I still kill. Nope, it lives it with 1 HP. Because of course it does. That then allows him to go for an Icicle Crash. And I'm thinking one thing is like, hey, if they didn't click Ice Shard there, maybe they don't have it. Nope, yeah, no, they have it. They are able to pick me off with that Ice Shard. And while I thought I was cooking something up, it turns out the Bisharp was the one being cooked. So, you know, that's fine. I use up their Terra. I get this thing into range where I can easily take care of it. And this late game is going to come right down to it because they've got some threats left. Now, best thing I can do here is I decide to go into the Ribombee. Now that's just because, again, I can outspeed. They can go for an Ice Shard and pop my Focus Ash if they want. Now I consider going for a Quiver Dance. Problem with that is I don't have a way to really easily hit Gengar in the back, especially now that I can no longer Terra Blast. So I just decide to knock this thing out. They do go for the Ice Shard, gonna break my Sash, which honestly, I probably should have gone Weezing here, but I didn't want to lock myself into anything and allow them to Revenge Switch and get an upper hand that way. So I just Moonblast. It's fine. I take care of the Mamoswine, and we got him down to 3 mons left. We got him right where we want him. Now, as they go into Noctowl, generally Noctowl, I'm not afraid of this thing, right? But honestly, for some reason, when people use nonsense like this, I'm almost more afraid. Now, I go for the Quiver Dance here, right? This thing takes Stealth Rock Chip. I'm not that afraid. I'm not going to get great damage if I just straight up Moonblast. I'm going to try to Quiver Dance just to see if they want to go for some crazy nonsense like some type of Hypnosis and in Blunder Policy set. Turns out they just go for the Air Slash, and I pay the price. So I just go to, I probably should have opted for the damage there. I don't, I get greedy, and now we got ourselves in a 3v3. And honestly, this Noctowl, again, I'm still kind of afraid. I don't know if it's gonna be some type of setup. It has to be. If someone's using a Noctowl, it's gonna pull out some crazy shit. So best thing I can do, go into the Dot Spun, right? This thing's bulky. I'm invested on the special defensive side. I can take attacks. I go for the Play Rough there just to get some chip off on the guy, and it does go for the Hypnosis. And that kind of tells me everything I need to know about what this thing's working with. It's probably Blunder Policy, as I haven't seen an item, and it's probably Nasty Plot. This guy's got all the damn Nasty Plotters in the world, right? So I take my turn of sleep. It does go for the Nasty Plot, and sweet Jesus, this thing's thinking some diabolical shit over there. So if this thing gets a little out of hand with some more nasty plots, I'm going to be in trouble. I have to continue to try to play rough. There's basically nothing I can do. I can't really afford to switch. I have to stay in here. They go for the Hurricane, and it misses. But as they likely imagine, that's probably what they were looking for, right? They get the miss, which then procs the not weakness, the freaking blunder policy. One of those policies, but he's got to check with his lawyer. That does, in fact, double its speed, and now this Noctowl is scary as hell. As they go for another air slash, thank the Lord I wake up and I don't flinch, because I get off another play rough, and that takes care of it. And that is a bullet dodged. Never would have thought that the Noctowl would have become the win condition there, and luckily, holy shit, we are able to get rid of that via the pure discipline of the bread dog. What a good boy. So they got 2 mons left here, and this is still honestly feels like they've got the upper hand, just because of the fact now they can go Gengar, and this thing obviously has me in range for a Sludge Bomb. I can't switch into anything. Swampert's essentially dead in the back. Dotsbun has no option here. It's gonna come down to Weezing to save the game here. And as Weezing hasn't done much yet, sometimes you gotta rely on the Disco Balls, baby. They do finish me off with that Sludge Bomb there. I have no option to Terra, essentially back against the wall. And now it's gonna get interesting. So this thing's over here eating my leftovers. Remember, early turn 1, it went for the trick, stole Swampert's leftovers, rudely enough eating them right in front of me. And now it's time to bring in the balls, baby. I go into Weezing. Now, here's the thing about Weezing. I have coverage on everything, baby. I can go for a Shadow Ball. They do not see the Weezing as a threat. They end up going for the nasty plot here. And that is great for me, because as I go for a Shadow Ball, they're probably thinking this is fine. I live a Shadow Ball from a Weezing. Nope, incorrect. Choice Specs Weezing is the only way we get enough damage to knock that thing out with a Shadow Ball, and just like that, we've got our ass back in it. Shout out to the Weezing. Now, it's not quite over, and it's far from, because they still have this freaking guy. And Poliwrath comes in as their last mon. Takes a little bit of Stealth Rock chip, still sitting at above half. But here's the thing. There's only one way that I can win this match, and I have to first switch into Swampert as a little death fodder here. And that's because I'm Choice Specs into Shadow Ball, and I get nothing done clicking Shadow Ball against freaking Frogger over here. So I bring in the Swampert. They do go for the liquidation play that is going to take care of the Pert, and now it comes down to the 1v1, the Gen 1 goats. If and only if I can land a Thunder. With a Specs, it should be enough to take care of the Poliwrath, but I need to land a Thunder in order to win this game. And that's why we play the game, baby. I thought maybe Sludge Wave would be in range. It's not. I need to click a Thunder. They end up going for the Protect. They're going to ice me. They're trying to give me blue balls over here. My balls are already blue enough. They do Protect through the Thunder. They see what I'm looking for, right? They see what I'm trying to do, and it gives them another turn to basically just live. But if I connect on this next Thunder, I should be able to live a Liquidation, no problem, right? I'm bulky. They go for the Liquidation and get a critical hit. But the Disco Balls are going to connect on the Thunder. With the Choice Specs, it's enough to knock out the Poliwrath. And holy hell, I've never prayed for a Thunder to connect so much in my life. But that is going to be the end of the game. The Weezing comes in clutch with a move that has pretty much no business ever going for it. But we have it, and that's going to be the end of the game. And that was a pretty satisfying ending on that one. Here's a fun fact for you. I think if I was running Thunderbolt over Thunder, I might not have had enough damage, depending on how that Poliwrath was built. It's got to be max HP. So shout out to having Thunder on that one. But that's going to bring us into game number 2, because we're out here messing around with a weird-ass team, and Weezing's got his glasses strapped on tight, polished the hell up, ready to get some 20/20 vision going. And look, if you've stuck around this far into the video, thank you very much for hanging out. I really do appreciate you. If you are still here listening, make sure to leave a like on the video. It really does help out the channel. I don't know, YouTube likes it when you hit the button. But regardless, let's go ahead and jump into the next match. All right, so this is a really fun game against a pretty scary-looking team. They got some big threats. Main things I'm worried about would be, tidy up Mousehold with Population Bomb. They've also got a Palafin back there, but as they lead off with a Cleaver, this is fine for a Swampert lead, right? They can Stone Axe me all they want. They can get up their Stealth Rock that way with a little bit of chip damage involved, but that's fine. I will be getting mine up the old-fashioned way, and that is the way God intended, which is by clicking the Stealth Rock button. This guy's freaking cheating over here, getting damage and Stealth Rock up. What a bastard. Anyway, I get my rocks up. He gets his rocks up. That's fine. I have some leftovers. Obviously, this thing's not doing any damage to me. With that Stone Axe, I'm like, surely this thing has to switch here. I don't know if it's Choice Scarf. A lot of the time, Cleaver going to be Scarf, right? So I don't know if it's locked into that. If it is, they have to switch. And for that reason, I go for the flip turn. But in a curveball, they end up just clicking the Stone Axe again, which, doesn't do much damage. Does allow me to go for a flip turn on it, which gives me some great chip and allows me now to just go into whatever I want. I'm thinking I can go into, honestly, anything faster, but I still, again, don't know if it's Scarf. So the safest bet is to go right into the Weezing. I'm about to get this damn disco started on the beach, And I'm like, surely they don't just click the physical attack against the Weezing again, right? They're afraid of the Will-O-Wisp. Turns out they do go for the Stone Axe. And this thing's just stone at Barbara's just over here Stone Axing all damn day. Luckily for me, as I go for a Sludge Wave expecting a switch, it's enough to just knock the thing out. So that's another knockout for the Weezing. Chalk them up for 1. And that's pretty nice. So now as they bring in Palafin, I'm sitting here like, baby Palafin is no threat. Even at this amount of HP, I should be able to take an attack. Because they go for a flip turn. That does a lot. But here's the sick part. Check this out. I just click a Sludge Wave again. And as they bring in young shoulder pads, this thing takes some Stealth Rock damage. And we go ahead and hit him with the big sneeze with the Sludge Wave. And that, with the choice specs, is enough to knock out the Armarouge, which is so incredibly satisfying. That thing surely did not expect that to knock it out. And that is the glory of choice specs Weezing. So as we're building up a kill streak, they end up going into Ribombee. I'm like, there's no way this thing just clicks. There's no way they just click the Sticky Web. They do. They just go for the Sticky Web. Allows me to go for another Sludge Wave. And that just kills the Ribombee. So that's 3 in a row for the Weezing. Sometimes all you got to do is mash the stab Sludge Wave. And that's quite satisfying. And while they get up their Sticky Web, that's kind of unfortunate. But honestly, my team isn't that afraid of it. I have the Boots Kragon. I could Rapid Spin it away. But I might just want to leave it for a reason you'll see later. Now, as I'm on very low health, I go back into Palafin. This damn thing does have its superhero form. Sadly, they are able to go for that Jet Punch. Is going to be able to take care of me. Down goes the Weezing, but not before we broke half the team with the guy. So we will absolutely take it. And now we've got a couple options. I decided to go into the Snowflake because I'm like, honestly, I should get a Rapid Spin off here. Not only will it get rid of the webs, and it might be helpful in the long run, but it also give me a speed boost. And that'll be kind of nice. Turns out, instead, I just get straight up deleted via Jet Punch. What the hell kind of Jet Punch was that? I realize now, obviously, that this thing is choice banded. And you know, that does make sense because I should have known. Judging by how much that flip turn did to Weezing when this thing was just baby form, I should have known this thing is choice banded. That's a bad play on my end. I end up losing the Kragonal for no reason, and also the webs are going to stay here. But again, the webs might end up helping me out, so I decided to go into Swampert because I'm like, I think Swampert at this health should be able to live an attack. I can go for an Earthquake. That's at least going to get some chip on the guy and allow me to finish it with something like my own Ribombee. But, you know, this thing's bulky. It is able to take an Earthquake. Swampert is essentially now going to have to kind of just die. And sometimes, you know, Swampert finds itself in that situation, but he takes one for the team every damn time. So I do go down to the Jet Punch there. This thing is just locked into the JP. So I'm like, sure, I can take advantage of this. What I don't want to happen is to use my Ribombee Sash this early. So what I decided to do is bring in the Bisharp. And this is our fella that likes the Sticky Web around, right? Because it drops my speed. But of course, that then activates our Define ability, immediately comes in and gives us a free Swords Dance. So that is some pretty solid value. And while I was trying to Rapid Spin him away, honestly, that's fine. It's going to stick around. Now, they just stay in. They go for another Jet Punch. I'm forced to go for a Throat Chop. And that Jet Punch is going to do a lot, even just through defensive Evilite. That is it's going to get some chip on me. But I finish off the Palafin. And this game is going to be a real close one. It's going to honestly seem like it's going to rely on Bisharp, you know, clutching things out for us. So they're down to 2 Mons left. They go Grimmsnarl first. In the back, they have the Mousehold. They are, of course, going to go ahead and click the Reflect there, unfortunately for me. But as I go for an Iron Head, it doesn't quite end up knocking the thing out. Bisharp has a fine matchup against Grimmsnarl, though. This thing can't go for any of its Prankster on me because I'm Dark type, and so it can't really Parting Shot. Knowing that they're going to have to attack here, I just go for the Sucker Punch. That is going to knock out the Grim. And as I feel like I've got this game locked up, it might not be that easy. So they got a Reflect up, which I'm feeling like is fine. I still have my Defiant boost. Their final mon gonna be the Mousehold here. And I'm like, okay, they can tidy up and avoid a Sucker Punch. And that's what I figure happens. I go for the Sucker Punch, it fails. But as they click an Encore, now that is gonna make things a whole lot more interesting. They go ahead, they lock me into Sucker Punch. I am in no position to switch out here, right? I'm like, surely I have to just, I mean, they're gonna have to attack eventually. Now the thing is, they're going to try to basically just avoid Sucker Punches and boost up as much as they possibly can. They go for the Terra Normal because that's going to boost up Population Bomb, you know, to just crazy levels. I proceed to just spam the Sucker Punch. I'm locked into it. Unfortunately, I don't have like an unlimited amount of Sucker Punches, and that's the part that might get me. So they go for the first Tidy Up. That's going to get rid of, you know, all the hazards on the field, make this shit as sparkling clean, but also now this Mousehold has got me kind of in back against the wall situation, right? I'm like, what can I even do to avoid this from happening? I can't really switch. It's just going to become faster. I consider being able to switch and then being able to Sucker Punch without being Encored, but without a boost or anything, and they also got rid of the sticky. I'm like, there's a reflect up. It's bad news for me. So I just decided to continue to sucker punch because, again, they're going to have to attack. But am I going to run out of PP before that happens? Find out next time on Haydunn Ball Z. Nah, I'm just kidding. We're going to find out right now. Now, here's the thing. I'm just going to skip through. I proceeded to click Sucker Punch until I ran out of PP, and now we find ourselves in this situation. Now, what's funny is that in my mashing buttons out of frustration, I accidentally go for the Terra. I go for the Terra flying here, but it's going to give me a second to explain. So what I fear is that they know I have no more Sucker Punches left. They know that they can now just freely attack me, and that is going to be the end of me if they've been keeping track of my Sucker Punches. But they end up clicking the Encore again. My Encore had worn off. They try to Encore me back into Sucker Punch. I get the Iron Head off, and that is a true game of like they had no idea how many Sucker Punches I had left. And without me even having any, I win out of just, honestly, the miscount there. which is a crazy ending. I thought they had me with that Encore shenanigans there, but that's going to be the end of that game. And shout out to Weezing for the triple kill streak. It really set us up for success on that one. But that's going to bring us into one more match because we're having fun with it, and we'll see if we can get Weezing to do a little bit more, huh? All right, so this time we're going up against biggest gayest. They got quite the team over there. But we're not afraid, so let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so once again, as I'm not really sure what's going to happen as a lead here, they do end up going with the Grimmsnarl, which is generally annoying, but kind of fine. And I at least know what this thing's going to do. I got with the Swampert here. I'm fully expecting just dual screens and then parting shot. So I'm just going to throw up some Stealth Rock and shimmy those out of me and be on my way with it. So as I get those up, I notice that I go first. That means that this thing certainly just went for an attack, which is not something. I'm like, wow, buddy attacked. They go for the Spirit Break, which does nothing, and does drop my special attack, which also does nothing. So, you know, that's a pretty damn good turn for the big Mudkip. So here's the thing. I would like to also just get rid of this thing's Light Clay before it can use it. So I'm just going to go for a knockoff. What ends up happening is that they switch out. Now check it out. I'm like, there's no way they're going to do it. They're not going to do it. They do it. They go into the Gliscor, which is the best fella to see to switch in on a turn where you go for a knockoff. And that's before they have their Toxic Orb active. So I'm able to get rid of their orb. And a Toxic Orbless Gliscor is about the best thing to see. The only thing better is going for a Scald and getting a burn before they activate that. So that is fantastic. Now without a Toxic, that's great. They end up going for a Toxic on me, and I'm like, you wish you were me, don't you, buddy? You wish this was you. So they get that Toxic off, which is annoying, but I go for a flip turn that's going to get some big old damage and allows me to switch into whatever I want on the slow pivot. And then now I'm honestly feeling like I've removed this thing's will to live, right? A Gliscor at this health without a Toxic Orb, it's clearly just a stall one. It has Toxic of its own. So as I go into the Snowflake, I'm thinking, sure, they just let me just freeze dry and kill this thing here. Absolutely, there's no way they try to conserve this at all. I go for the freeze dry. They do stay in. That's going to take care of the Gliscor. And boy, do we love when we can get knockoffs before they can get that damn item to activate. So down goes the Gliscor for free. And that feels pretty damn good. So as they now bring in the Quaquaval, I'm thinking, okay, I outspeed, right? I'm faster than this weird sausage toes over here. And while the freeze dry doesn't quite knock it out, I'm like, you know, they probably just click a close combat. So it's my best bet to probably just switch here. I decide to go into the Weezing because I can take any attack this thing wants to throw at me. And then you already know it's Thunder in time, baby. We're just out here throwing around Thunders. Now it turns out they go for a Terra. They're probably just afraid of that freeze dry, likely so. Or rightfully so. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about half the time. But they end up going for the Terra Dark, which is great. They go for a Terra that now doesn't benefit anything as I switched out. They go for the close combat right to the balls. And that's fine. Doesn't even hurt that bad, baby. We're able to eat that because we do have just hella bulk on buddy. And as they get a defensive or special defensive drop, that's going to help me. I'm surely going to be able to get a Specs Sludge Wave kill here if they want to stay in. It turns out they do stay in. Not only that, but they go for a triple axle for no reason. Doesn't have any stab or any extra damage. But that's sick because now I go for a Sludge Wave, get a knockout on the Quaquaval. And Weezing is just out here ducking and dodging and diving attacks and getting damage to knock things out in one hit. Boy, do we love ourselves some Weezing. So now as they go Blaziken, I'm thinking again, physical attacking Blaze. I can take an attack from a Blaziken and honestly just get a Sludge Wave kill once again. They go for the Swords Dance here. They're thinking, I'm going to try to set up. They're like, this is fine. I can take an attack after some setup, then they're going to be in range to knock me out. But as I hit him with the big sneeze, and that knocks out the Blaziken in one hit. Nobody expects the choice specs Weezing to get the knockouts that this thing does. That is so fun because now as they go into their own Weezing, I was actually really excited about this matchup. it's basically me with Top Hat, but also this thing's part fairy, so I have a neutral Sludge Wave, and I can get some big damage here, and they can't do anything to me, so I'm gonna go for another Sludge Wave, but they decide to just they decide to just head out. The Specs Weezing, I like to attribute that Rage Quit to the Specs Weezing. The damage Weezing is the truth. Do not ever forget the name, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.